Today, this window that has been cracked for like a year now got fixed. When it cracked a year ago, I did request, hey, could you fix this? Sure. And today is the day, over a year. But man, now this villa is for the first time ever in perfect shape, because there's another thing that they fixed which needed fixing, and that also got fixed. It's too complicated to go over it. So, but now this villa is in perfect shape, and I'm tempted to sleep here now because it's nice to be in something that's perfect. I did sleep here before. I used to sleep here. I spent about 3 months here before, but that's when the grass was cracked and the other issue was a problem. But now everything is perfect. Oh man. Yeah, so here are the tools. The guys are still from the guys who did the repair. And I've been enjoying my walks, and I think I'm gonna apply my walking to the progress that's going on. But everything is not just that. Listen, man, I know that going for walks is a really great way to have an impact on how my reality works. And man, since I've been walking, everything just started working out better. The first thing was happening is my family started making good money with Uber. And because of that, she paid for YouTube Premium family plan. And so YouTube ads went away, right? And then I reactivated my X account. I don't know what the reason was, but I just felt like, okay, I can just reactivate it. Oh yeah, I wanted to post. Oh yeah, I know why. This is why. Wow, it's the walking. So I start walking, and then right away, my family starts doing better as far as earning money, and it's like a really sweet story because the way it's set up. And then I make a video walking and I put it on YouTube, and I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, this quality is terrible, it's awful. Now it's gotten better since then, but that day I was like, oh man, I gotta upload this to X platform, and I want to watch this video. And I'm walking through the bush, so when I'm walking through the bush, I want to see it really good. I want to see it nice. I want to see the detail. Then these guys with the glass, they come fix everything. That's an amazing, because I figured that was not going to happen. I did not see that coming. Now everything is actually done, like all the stuff, They don't have to come back. It's like me knowing that they're good. They don't have to come back for no reason. I like this eagle. I want to them if I have, I want to them if I have, because I'm gone. And the grill me gone, pan that. That's like 2,500. I think that's about 2,500. Right? So, yeah, so I'm going to say things are working out. And, oh yeah, and now the Airbnb, the villa, today got finally, I feel like it got a record deal. It got a record deal today. It got picked up by Universal, right? And what I mean by that, before today, it was listed on Juliana's, on Juliana's Airbnb, and she has never hosted Airbnb before. She's only done Airbnb experiences. So she's not a host. She's just a newbie on there. And I don't think that's going to get you any points, with Airbnb. So, but it's good to have it though. It's just like what we have. It's at least what we had. But my sister, who lives in Central Florida, has many Airbnbs, has been doing it for 5 years. She's like, an official Airbnb host. And she came here like 3 weeks ago for one day to look at the place. And from 3 weeks ago is when she decided she's gonna, do her thing with it. And it's all been, the past 3 weeks has all been preparations. Me responding to her requests, whatever that we need to get for it to be at her. You know, she's running the show, right? She's setting the price, everything. She has a co-host. Basically, from today on, it's, it's like I said, the villa got a record deal, man. Right? Because I don't have to, as far as the marketing and the logistics of all the bookings and all that stuff, and people just gonna show up, right? And I'll be there and do my best to be a nice person, but I'm not involved in any of the logistics, which is the way I wanted it. And I knew it was gonna work out that way. But today's the day. And it's days after I've been walking, and I've been doing the walking to represent the villa. And so it's like, again, I find myself as a mouth and 2 feet in the middle of all this amazing show. That's what I am right now, and the camera, and the hand that holds the camera, and a voice and interesting things to translate. So, yeah. So this walk is called Go with the Flow. It's a vampire. It's like a vampire bat. So that's the last house. This is the last house, actually. And then there's nothing but bush for miles. Right? But this house is not active. I mean, it's active. A lady lives there, but she's calm and quiet. This house is active. So I call that the last house because it's fully active. Right? Enough things are going on. Enough happenings. It's linked to a lot of happenings. This house up here is just a nice lady. She's just chill. But that's it. Now it's just miles and miles of nature. Right? No animals. Maybe donkey, goat. I've never seen one, like a wild goat, but I've heard it. I've heard it like running in the bush. I think if that's what that was. Could have been a minotaur, right? All right, so now that I'm here, the flow is for me to listen to my other phone and listen to the words and walk. I find pleasure in watching the video in that mode. So let's go. Like official on Airbnb now, says to me, yeah, I can just focus on, definitely keep promoting the video on YouTube, but really just focus on my channel, so the dream is to get monetized one day, maybe I don't know, maybe that might take a while, man. I'll say, look, 2 years, if I don't get monetized within 2 years, just by doing what I'm doing right now, comments closed, in the flow, then I'll quit. All right, if I'll give it two years, right? I'll give it 2 years from now. But see, I look at that as, me being successful as far as getting monetized within the next 2 years, and then having all that unique content to last a long time. My idea is having digital income for retirement, when I can't farm no more. Or, I mean, the villa is not really work, but it is like a material thing that has responsibility linked to it. It's not like I can just lay in my bed. I mean, possibly, right? It's possible. Like, you know, everyone could just take over and do everything, and I'm just chilling, getting paid, right? But digitally, there's no one and there's no body involved. It's just the videos are being played, and I'm getting paid. That's way more simple than, oh, there's a bunch of stuff going on, right? And I think in retirement, like, you know, I'm retired already, but in like that last stage where I'm not physically willing to work hard, then digital income should be where it's at. And I think YouTube is like, what I'm seeing is YouTube is the path of least resistance. And it's worked before. It's working now, actually, right? Because there are already two channels that I did the same thing with, and they're paying right now. So I'm just doing the same thing all over again. Yeah, pretty much, you know. But you know, another thing about monetize, it sounds like I am bending my back for the demon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to be monetized to earn off the channel, right? Or really though. I mean, just the fact that the villa is there and there should be more villas coming up. Yeah, just the villas alone, the fact that the villas are there, that could be the revenue as far as that represents. So then being monetized is just like, oh, I'd like to be invited, but by the time I get invited, which is within a couple of years, it's like, okay, well, you know, okay, I'll think about it. I'll think about it, you know, and I'll probably be like, you know, I already thought about it actually, and I'm gonna go ahead and stay the same way, you know, so I won't get any notes talking about, oh, you know, we're gonna demonetize you for smoking or whatever thing that comes up that I'm doing, and it's unacceptable. You know what I mean? Advertisers. So there is strings attached when it comes to that, right? But being that right now, when everything is down and out and nothing is popping, right? That's when you need that digital income to say, hey man, at least I'm not gonna starve. And so that's when it's important. So so then that's when I'll accept the invitation, right? So let's say everything is popping, the villas are being built, and everything is going great in that respect. I'm satisfied with the results, and it's linked to the channel. And then I get invited to be monetized, and I don't really jump on it right away. But then I realize that if this thing falls apart, you know, I'm gonna be wishing that I had that monetization. So then, you know, looking at it from that point of view, as long as I'm not gonna be breaking my back, you know, and like not doing things that I don't want to do. Actually, you know what? There's gotta be a way around it, right? Because it's fun, man. If it means that it's gonna be that digital income that's gonna be there no matter what down the line, then hey, man, that's called being self-respect. I'm giving myself some self-respect there. You know what I mean? Because ain't nobody looking at. It's for me to look out for me now, right? As far as when it comes down, you know, as far as I can see now, I'm supposed to age and I'm supposed to get weaker, right? And so I think that my only preparation for that right now that I can make is a YouTube channel that's monetized. Because anything else is way more complicated. It's way more complicated. It's like once you even include another human being into the thing, it's like, oh, now here we go. So yeah, that digital with no human being between me and the show, you know, me and the flow. It's me and the screen basically, and it's kind of like that's the way it needs to be. As far as like, yeah, I like the whole filler thing and all that stuff. That's amazing. But as far as like the path of least resistance for financial stuff, I'm like, I like the screen. I like YouTube. I like anything that make sense to me. You know, I would say that crypto made sense to me when there was this crazy inflation and it looked like it was never gonna stop. Like, and crypto was like a tax on that. It's like I said, crypto is a tax. Bitcoin is a tax on wild inflation. But once that is addressed, once inflation is addressed in a very aggressive way, which is what's going on right now, then the whole idea of a volatile cryptocurrency falls apart. Like there's no need for it anymore because there's nothing to push it up with. There's no inflation. Everything is being handled. Once you have the financial system being handled in a blockchain way, and let's say that's starting now, like starting the building of that is starting now. So let's say within a X amount of time, very quickly, in fact, everything's blockchain, then there is no waste, there is no inflation, there's everything is just regulated, and then there's AI. So where does volatile crypto come into play there? Where does Bitcoin get any value? It doesn't. There's no way. At least not high value. It'll be worth something, something a dollar, just for Pete's sake, right? Because a dollar is the only thing that really matters, when it comes to, yeah, a unit of trade, you know. And I think that once you have a dollar being represented on blockchain across borders, like a worldwide dollar becomes the dollar, and then you have AI and everything is being tracked properly, then there's no volatility. It's just like, okay, we can even stop thinking about that. The whole stock market thing and investing and all that, you stop thinking about that. That's just like a whole, that's primitive in a sense. That's primitive, that's prime. Now it's like creative. What they say, what did man say? That man say golden age, baby. And that's a very big word. Golden age is a big word in a spiritual sense. A golden age is a serious, hey man, what did you say? Okay, so let's go for a walk, right? This flow is called go with the flow, right?
Life, with all its uncertainties, often leaves us grasping for control. We cling to the illusion that we can dictate its every twist and turn, yet the more we resist, the more we struggle. What if, instead of fighting the current, we learned to flow with it? What if surrender wasn't a sign of defeat, but a doorway to wisdom? To truly live is to embrace change, to find beauty in uncertainty, and to trust that the river of life carries us precisely where we need to be. Imagine standing by a riverbank, watching the water course effortlessly over stones, swirling and dancing as it moves. The river has no fixed plan, no rigid agenda, yet it navigates obstacles with grace, bending when necessary, deepening when needed, carving new paths over time. There is a lesson in that flow, a subtle wisdom that most of us overlook. We, however, try so hard to control the course of our lives, convinced that we must always know what comes next. We battle currents, struggle against tides, and wonder why we feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and defeated. Yet the truth is, life was never something to be conquered. It is something to be lived, experienced, and most importantly, trusted. The idea of surrender often strikes fear in the heart. To surrender sounds like giving up, like abandoning our dreams, our desires, and our ambitions. But surrendering to the flow of life is not the same as resigning ourselves to failure. It is instead a conscious act of faith. It is the recognition that there are forces greater than our individual will, forces that we cannot see, but that move us just as surely as the unseen currents beneath the river's surface. We do not always need to paddle frantically to stay afloat. Sometimes we need only to trust that the flow will carry us where we are meant to be. Consider the moments in your life when you felt most lost, most uncertain, unsure of what to do next. Did those moments not eventually pass? Did they not lead you somewhere you never expected, yet in hindsight it all seemed to make sense? The truth is, life is not a sequence of controlled, calculated steps. It is a dance of chaos and order, a balance of planning and letting go. When we release our rigid grip on how things should be, we open ourselves to how things could be, possibilities that may surpass our limited imagination. We are conditioned to believe that certainty is security, that knowing is power. Yet there is a deeper power in embracing the unknown, in finding peace amid unpredictability. The river knows not where each turn will take it, yet it moves with an inherent trust, adjusting as necessary. If we could learn to live with a fraction of that trust, we might discover that uncertainty is not an enemy but a companion. It is a space of infinite potential where anything can happen, where every unknown turn can lead to discovery. Letting go of control is not an easy task. It can feel vulnerable, like drifting without a map or compass. Yet, what we fail to realize is that the need for control is often rooted in fear, fear of failure, fear of disappointment, fear of the unfamiliar. But if we hold on too tightly to our preconceived plans, we may miss the very experiences that would transform us the most. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it, but only if we allow room for surprise. To go with the flow does not mean abandoning ambition or neglecting responsibility. It is not a call to apathy or indifference. Instead, it is a call to presence, a reminder to be awake to the moment, to respond to life rather than react to it. It is an invitation to trust the process, to understand that while we may not always know the path, we can trust the journey. When the river encounters a rock, it does not halt. It moves around it, adjusts, finds another way. Can we not do the same? Ultimately, going with the flow is an act of humility. It is the acknowledgement that we do not have all the answers, and that it is okay not to. It is the understanding that we are part of a vast, interconnected web of life, a dance that moves with or without our consent. By aligning ourselves with this flow, by learning to dance rather than resist, we can find a sense of peace that is not dependent on certainty, but is rooted in trust. So what if today you chose to release just a little of that control? What if you allowed yourself to be carried by the current, not with a sense of resignation, but with a sense of curiosity? What if, instead of demanding answers, you allowed space for question? What if you saw each twist and turn not as a disruption, but as part of the rhythm, part of the unfolding journey that is uniquely yours? The river flows, whether we fight against it or flow with it. Life moves forward, regardless of our plans. Perhaps it is time to trust that movement, to embrace its wisdom, and to let ourselves be carried by the current, knowing that wherever we are led, it is precisely where we are meant to be. Surrender is a word that carries a weight of misunderstanding. In our culture, it is often equated with defeat, failure, or weakness. To surrender appears to be a loss of power, a collapse of will, a resignation to something less than what we desire. Yet, what if surrender is not the act of giving up, but the act of giving in, of releasing ourselves from the illusion of control that so often binds us in fear and anxiety? To surrender, in the truest sense, is an invitation to align with the flow of life rather than battle against it. It is a willingness to accept the present moment as it is, not as we wish it to be. Imagine standing in the ocean where waves rise and fall, unbothered by our presence. If we resist these waves, stiffen ourselves against their force, we are battered and exhausted. But if we relax, if we allow ourselves to float, to move with the rhythm of the water, there is a sense of peace. The waves no longer seem to punish us. Instead, they carry us. The act of surrender is much like this. It is not about giving up our agency or abandoning our goals, but about recognizing the larger currents of life that flow beyond our control. In this recognition, there is freedom, a liberation from the relentless need to manipulate every outcome, to orchestrate every detail. Consider the moments in life when you tried to force something to happen. A relationship to work, a career to unfold in a specific way, a plan to go flawlessly. The tighter we grip these desires, the more fragile they become. We become entangled in expectations, trapped by the belief that if things do not go according to plan, we have failed. Yet, how often does life unfold precisely as we envision it? How often do our best laid plans unravel, leading us somewhere we never expected? It is in those moments of unexpected change, of loss, of shattered expectations, that we are faced with a choice. Resist the reality before us or surrender to it. Surrendering does not mean abandoning our desires or neglecting our responsibilities. It does not mean becoming passive or indifferent. Rather, it is a conscious act of faith, a trust in the inherent intelligence of life itself. It is understanding that there are forces at play far beyond our perception. intricate interconnections that weave our experiences together in ways we may never fully comprehend. To surrender is to step back, to widen our gaze, and to see that there is a larger tapestry unfolding, one in which our individual threads are a part, but not the whole. Often we fear surrender because we fear vulnerability. We are afraid of being hurt, of facing the unknown, of losing what we have worked so hard to build. Yet it is in our most vulnerable moments that we discover the depth of our resilience. It is when we let go of our rigid defenses that we open ourselves to genuine connection, to true creativity, to authentic living. To surrender is not to abandon ourselves, but to embrace ourselves fully, to accept our humanness, our imperfections, our uncertainty. Many of us hold the belief that to surrender is to lose control, but control itself is a myth, a creation of the mind to shield us from the unpredictability of existence. We think that if we plan enough, prepare enough, strategize enough, we can prevent hardship, avoid pain, and ensure success. Yet life often has other plans, plans that do not adhere to our expectations, but that may lead us to experiences richer, deeper, and more transformative than anything we could have designed. What if the very obstacles we resist are the gateways to the growth we seek? What if our plans fall apart not to punish us, but to redirect us? When we surrender, we make peace with uncertainty. We stop demanding guarantees and start embracing possibilities. We allow room for mystery, for the unknown, for the unfolding of life beyond the limitations of our minds. This does not mean that we stop caring or striving. Rather, we learn to hold our desires with open hands instead of clenched fists. We trust that if something is meant for us, it will find its way to us, not through force, but through flow. There is a deep wisdom in the natural world that exemplifies this surrender. Trees do not resist the wind. They bend and sway, trusting that the storm will pass. Birds do not cling to the sky. They ride the air, knowing that the current will carry them. Rivers do not fight against rocks. They navigate around them, adapting their course while maintaining their essence. Nature surrenders not out of weakness, but out of an innate understanding that resistance leads to suffering. So, what if we allowed ourselves to be like the river, like the tree, like the bird? What if we embraced the art of surrender, not as an act of defeat, but as an act of grace? What if instead of tightening our grip on life, we softened it? Trusting that the flow of life has its own intelligence, its own rhythm, its own purpose. To surrender is to dance with life, to move with its melody rather than struggle against its beat. It is to trust that, even when we cannot see the path ahead, the ground beneath us is still there, steady and unwavering. In surrender, we do not lose ourselves, we find ourselves. We discover that the strength we sought through control is present in the courage to let go. We realize that the peace we yearned for was never in the absence of chaos, but in our willingness to embrace it. Life is not a problem to be solved or a battle to be won. It is a river to be flowed with, a dance to be danced, a journey to be experienced, fully. Surrendering is not the end of our efforts, it is the beginning of true living. Change is one of the few certainties of life, yet it remains something most of us struggle to accept. We yearn for stability, for a sense of predictability that allows us to feel secure. We construct routines, build identities, and cling to the familiar, believing that if we can maintain control, we can keep the world steady. Yet life, in its essence, is a continuous unfolding, a stream of change that never ceases. Resisting this flow is like trying to hold water in our hands. The tighter we grip, the faster it slips away. To embrace change is to embrace the truth of impermanence. Nothing in life remains fixed. Everything is in a state of becoming, a process of transformation. The seasons shift, the tides rise and fall, the cells within our bodies regenerate. All without our consent or control. Even the thoughts and emotions that color our inner world are fleeting. Yet despite the evidence of change surrounding us, we cling to the illusion of permanence, convinced that if we resist hard enough, we can keep things as they are. We try to freeze moments of joy, prolong the presence of those we love, and capture experiences that seem to slip through our grasp like sand. But the more we fight change, the more we suffer. Consider the leaves on a tree. They emerge vibrant and green, soaking in the sun's warmth through spring and summer. But as autumn arrives, they change, gold, red, and brown, before finally letting go, returning to the earth. The tree does not mourn the loss of its leaves. It does not resist the coming of winter. It understands that this shedding is necessary for renewal, for growth, for the continuation of life itself. Yet we, in our stubbornness, attempt to cling to what must inevitably change. We fear the loss of what is familiar and fail to see the beauty of what lies ahead. Change is often equated with loss, but it is also an invitation to renewal. When we lose a job, a relationship, or a dream, it is easy to see only the absence of what once was. But loss creates space for something new to emerge, for growth we may never have anticipated. To resist this change is to deny ourselves the potential that lies beyond it. It is to live in a stagnant pool rather than flow with the ever-moving river of life. When we accept change, we begin to see that endings are not failures, they are transitions. They are the closing of one chapter to make way for another, each with its own lessons, challenges, and possibilities. Fear is what makes change so daunting. We are afraid of what we do not know, of what we cannot predict. We worry that if we release our grip on the familiar, we will lose ourselves. Yet, in truth, we are always changing, always becoming. The self we cling to is not a fixed entity. It is a series of moments, perceptions, and experiences that continuously evolve. To fear change is, in a sense, to fear ourselves, to fear the natural flow of life that courses through us. We are not separate from this process. We are part of it. The river that flows outside also flows within us. Imagine for a moment if nothing changed, if all remained as it is. No growth, no decay, no evolution. The world would be stagnant, devoid of the richness that emerges from transformation. The beauty of a butterfly lies not in its existence as a caterpillar, nor solely in its emergence from the cocoon, but in the entire process of metamorphosis. It is the willingness to shed the old, to break apart and reform, that gives life its depth and color. Why then do we fear the very process that brings life to life? Why do we resist what is intrinsic to our nature? To embrace change is not to deny the difficulty it often brings. It is not to pretend that loss is painless, or that uncertainty is always exciting. There will be moments when the ground beneath us feels unsteady, when we are unsure of who we are or where we are headed. Yet these moments of disorientation are also moments of possibility. When the known crumbles, the unknown opens. When old ways of being no longer serve us, we are given the opportunity to create anew. The irony is that when we stop resisting change, when we let go of the need to control every outcome, we find a deeper sense of peace. The fear that once kept us clinging now gives way to curiosity. Instead of asking, how do I keep things from changing, we begin to wonder, what will this change bring? What can I learn from this transition? How can I grow from what is unfolding before me? Life becomes less a battle to be won and more a dance to be danced. A dance that is ever-changing, unpredictable, yet profoundly alive. Ultimately, to embrace change is to embrace life itself. It is to acknowledge that we are part of a greater flow, a vast interconnected tapestry of being. It is to trust that even when we do not understand the direction of the current, it is moving us toward growth, toward wisdom, toward greater understanding. Change does not take from us, it transforms us. It strips away what no longer serves, leaving space for what is true, what is real, what is necessary. What if, instead of resisting, we learn to ride the waves of change? What if we saw each shift, each loss, each unexpected turn as an invitation to become more of who we truly are? What if we could let go of the need to control the river and instead learn to flow with it, trusting that wherever it takes us, it is exactly where we are meant to be. Change is not the enemy, it is the essence of life. To embrace it is to embrace the fullness of what it means to be alive, dynamic, evolving, and infinitely possible. Let me know if this resonates with your vision, or if there's anything you'd like to adjust. Trusting the unknown is one of the most challenging yet liberating things we can do in life. As human beings, we crave certainty, grasping at it like a lifeline in a chaotic world. We make plans, create strategies, and set expectations, hoping that if we calculate carefully enough, if we anticipate every outcome, we can protect ourselves from disappointment, failure, and pain. Yet despite all our efforts, life often defies our plans, unraveling in ways we never predicted. The unknown stretches out before us like an endless horizon, vast, unpredictable, and often intimidating. But what if the unknown is not something to be feared, but embraced? What if, rather than seeking to control it, we could learn to trust it? Think of all the times when life has surprised you, when the path you thought was certain crumbled beneath your feet, only to lead you to a new direction, one you could never have imagined, but one that changed you profoundly. Think of the moments when unexpected encounters altered your life's course, when chance meetings led to deep connections or unforeseen opportunities. If everything unfolded strictly according to plan, if there were no surprises, no uncertainties, no deviations from the path we imagined, life would be monotonous, predictable, devoid of mystery. The beauty of life lies in its unpredictability, in the way it continuously invites us to step beyond the boundaries of what we know. The unknown is by nature uncertain. It is the space where our control ceases to function, where our familiar reference points disappear. And because of this, it is uncomfortable. Yet discomfort is not necessarily a bad thing. It is often a sign of growth, a signal that we are venturing into new territory, breaking free from the confines of the known. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, peering out at the vast open space before you. Fear may tighten your chest, but there is also a thrill, the thrill of possibility, of discovery, of the potential for transformation. To trust the unknown is to lean into that space, to accept that we cannot see all that lies ahead and that this is not a flaw but a gift.
Woo!
We often resist the unknown because it threatens the identity we have constructed. We define ourselves by our stories, our past experiences, our successes, our failures. We build our sense of self on what we have known and achieved. But what happens when the foundation of that identity begins to shift? When the plans we held so tightly dissolve? There is a fear that without our carefully crafted narratives, we are nothing. That if we let go of who we have been, we will lose ourselves entirely. Yet paradoxically, it is often in letting go that we find a deeper, more authentic self. When we release the need to control and define every aspect of our lives, we create space for something new to emerge. A version of ourselves unburdened by rigid expectations, open to the flow of experience. Trusting the unknown requires vulnerability. It requires a willingness to step beyond the limits of certainty and embrace a world that is perpetually in flux. This vulnerability can feel like weakness, but it is the source of great strength. When we open ourselves to uncertainty, we are no longer constrained by fear. We are no longer clinging desperately to what must be, but are receptive to what could be. It is a surrender that is not a collapse, but a conscious choice to engage fully with the mystery of existence. To trust the unknown is not to abandon discernment or judgment. It is not to drift aimlessly without intention or purpose. Rather, it is the recognition that despite our best efforts, we do not control the flow of life. We can guide our sails, adjust our course, but we cannot command the wind. To navigate the unknown is to become like a sailor on the open sea, attentive, responsive, yet ultimately humble in the face of forces far greater than oneself. We trust not because we know what lies ahead, but because we have learned that resisting the tide only leads to exhaustion. There is a profound wisdom in nature that exemplifies this trust. Birds migrate across vast distances without maps or plans, guided by instincts beyond their understanding. Seeds scatter in the wind, taking root where they land, growing in places they could never have chosen. Rivers flow toward the sea, winding through landscapes they have not seen, untroubled by uncertainty. In each of these examples, there is a natural surrender to the unknown, a trust in the unfolding of life that does not rely on control, but on acceptance. If nature, in all its complexity, can navigate the unknown with grace, can we not learn to do the same? To trust the unknown is to embrace the truth that we are not separate from life, we are part of it. We are not isolated beings attempting to control the chaotic world. We are expressions of the same force that moves the stars, stirs the oceans, and brings life into being. When we trust this force, we are not surrendering to randomness, but aligning ourselves with a deeper intelligence, a wisdom that transcends our limited perspective. It is a trust that says, even when I do not understand, I am willing to explore. What if, instead of fearing the unknown, we saw it as a companion, a guide that leads us beyond the familiar, inviting us to expand our understanding of ourselves and the world? What if every unanswered question, every unforeseen change, every unexpected turn was an invitation to grow, to deepen, to experience life more fully? When we stop demanding guarantees and embrace the uncertainty of each moment, we open ourselves to a world of infinite possibility. Ultimately, trusting the unknown is an act of faith, not a blind faith in a specific outcome, but a faith in the unfolding process of life itself. It is a trust that whatever comes, we can navigate it, learn from it, grow through it. It is the courage to live without all the answers, to embrace the ambiguity of existence, to step forward even when the path is unclear. It is the realization that the unknown is not a void to be feared, but a vast open space to be explored. To trust, it is to trust life itself. Messy, unpredictable, and profoundly beautiful.
Profoundly
Living without
beautiful.
resistance is a radical way of being in a world that teaches us to struggle, to fight, to conquer. From a young age, we are conditioned to believe that effort, ambition, and willpower are the keys to success. We are taught that if we want something, we must fight for it, and if something opposes us, we must overcome it. In many ways, this mindset is celebrated. It fuels achievement, progress, and innovation, but it also creates a constant undercurrent of tension. Life becomes a battle against others, against circumstances, against ourselves. To live without resistance is not to abandon all effort or ambition. It is to see through the illusion that struggle is the only path to fulfillment. Resistance is born from the idea that we must control life, that we must mold it to fit our desires, to conform to our expectations. When reality contradicts our wishes, we tense up, pushing back against what is. We resist change, we resist loss, we resist uncertainty. We resist anything that threatens the image we hold of how life should be. Yet this resistance does not change reality. It only amplifies our suffering. When we fight against what is, we engage in a futile battle, a tug of war with the very fabric of existence. Life is not an opponent to be defeated. It is a process to be experienced. Imagine a person caught in a strong current. If they fight against the flow, thrashing and resisting, they quickly exhaust themselves, risking being pulled under. But if they relax, if they allow the current to carry them, they discover that they can float, that they can navigate with far less effort. The current does not care about their struggle. It simply moves as it will. Life, in its unpredictable and uncontrollable nature, is much the same. Our resistance does not stop the current. It only makes the journey more difficult. To live without resistance is to trust the flow of life, to understand that we are part of this current, not separate from it. When we resist, we suffer, because we are in conflict with reality. We experience pain, loss, and disappointment, but it is our resistance to these experiences that turns pain into prolonged suffering. We believe that if life does not unfold according to our desires, something has gone wrong, that we have failed, or that we are victims of an unjust world. But life was never meant to fit within the narrow confines of our expectations. The sun rises and sets without our permission. The seasons change, people come and go, all beyond our control. What if, instead of resisting these inevitable changes, we could learn to embrace them, to flow with them rather than against them? Living without resistance does not mean becoming passive or apathetic. It does not mean surrendering to injustice or abandoning the pursuit of what we value. Rather, it is an acknowledgement that while we can influence life, we cannot dictate it. We can plant seeds, but we cannot control the weather that nourishes or withers them. We can